An Argentine patrol craft has been sunk in a fresh clash with helicopters from the British task force off the Falklands. The Defence Ministry say another patrol boat was damaged. This latest action took place about 90 miles inside the total exclusion zone north of East Falkland at about 4 o'clock this morning, London time. The Defence Ministry say the patrol craft fired on a Royal Navy Sea King helicopter from HMS Hermes, the task force flagship. 2 Royal Navy Lynx helicopters then engaged the ships with missiles, said the ministry statement. Other developments in the South Atlantic: a British submarine torpedoed and severely damaged the Argentine cruiser General Belgrano. That was last night. The Argentines admit that the Belgrano was hit and damaged and say ships are going to the area to help if necessary.
The British say they have close to 5,000 men firmly established in a 10-square-mile beachhead and are moving out to secure more territory. Argentina gives a completely different version and suggests the British are in fact hanging on for dear life.
The British were expecting a large-scale Argentinian counter-assault today, but by this evening the only activity they were reporting was the 2 British Harrier jets on patrol south of Port Stanley severely damaged an Argentinian patrol boat. The British now seem confident. The Union Jack is flying in at least part of the Falklands, and they predict it will soon be a common sight throughout the islands.
As word of the Argentine defeat leaked out in Buenos Aires, thousands of demonstrators began to gather outside the presidential palace. President Galtieri was scheduled to make a speech trying to explain the Falkland developments. But the demonstrator, as many as 5,000 of them, began screaming, "Traitor, traitor," and this is the end of the military dictatorship. A Soviet flag at half-staff, a symbol of mourning for Leonid Ilyich Brezhnev, President of the Soviet Union, General Secretary of the Communist Party, for 18 years, the power behind those Kremlin walls. Good evening, this is the CBS Evening News, Dan Rather reporting. The death in Moscow of Leonid Brezhnev, 39 days before his 76th birthday, came as no real surprise. He had been very ill for several years, reportedly suffering from a stroke, cancer, and heart trouble. But as expected as the death may have been, it nevertheless had a stunning impact around the world. For Leonid Brezhnev was a powerful man, and whoever inherits that mantle of power will influence the events of the world.
2 down.
2 down.
2 down, sir.
4 casing under.
Her Majesty's Submarine Warspite is one of the Royal Navy's 13 nuclear-powered hunter-killer submarines. Its role in wartime would be to hunt and to sink Russian submarines.
My fellow Americans, I'm coming before you tonight about the Korean airline massacre, the attack by the Soviet Union against 269 innocent men, women, and children aboard an unarmed Korean passenger plane. This crime against humanity must never be forgotten, here or throughout the world.
For the West, though, it still leaves important questions unanswered.
The government has announced a 14-day ban on flights in or out of Britain by the Soviet airline Aeroflot, beginning on Thursday. The action is expected to be followed by other NATO countries. Thomson Holidays, who use Aeroflot for their summer package tours, have cancelled all holidays to Russia until September the 28th. American jet fighters have flown...
A warning may come quite unexpectedly. We will now tell you what to do if a warning sounds when you are at home.
The year is 1984. The day is the 23rd of December. Captain Edward Cook of the Royal Navy stands on the dockside at Faslane, anxiously checking his watch. He is in command of HMS Trafalgar, one of the United Kingdom's precious few nuclear submarines, and he's about to go to war. After 2 years of constantly escalating tensions between the East and West, the Soviet Union has finally done the unthinkable and committed ground troops to an all-out assault on West Germany. Even as the last of Trafalgar's crew scramble aboard, T-72s are already rolling through the Fulda Gap. There is a general state of confusion all around. It's the age before smartphones and tablets, and the internet itself is only a year old. Since nobody has time to turn on a radio right now, very few people actually know what's going on. With the diplomatic crisis rapidly deteriorating, most of Britain's fleet is already at sea, However, Trafalgar has remained in port while engineers desperately rush to fix some gremlins in the submarine's all-important hydraulic system. Trafalgar is what's referred to as an SSN, an attack sub. Unlike the ballistic missile submarines which contain Britain's nuclear deterrent in the form of Polaris missiles, Trafalgar carries no nuclear warheads, and instead has the unenviable job of locating, engaging, and sinking Soviet shipping, primarily other Soviet submarines. Cook's wife, along with the wives and girlfriends of virtually the entire crew, also live in and around Faslane. As the captain makes his way down the hatch, wondering if he'll ever set foot on dry land again, Mrs. Cook and their 2 children are in the process of assembling an impromptu fallout shelter within their own home, as per government instructions. Because the crew of HMS Trafalgar will be at sea if the conflict escalates to the use of nuclear weapons, they might be considered some of the lucky ones, as they'll be safely out of the way. However, not a single one of them sees it that way. Some of these men have already seen action in the Falklands 2 years ago, and now find themselves sailing to war yet again, although this time on a much bigger scale. For them, once was probably more than enough, but duty calls. This is the job the British taxpayer has been employing them to do for years, and there's no backing out now. Trafalgar leaves port, headed for the open ocean just as the clock strikes midnight. As the menacing-looking vessel slips beneath the waves, all is relatively quiet. Meanwhile, in West Germany, the sky for miles is lit up as the intermittent flashes of airstrikes and artillery fire refuse to let up. Captain Cook is the only member of the crew permitted his own cabin, and it's in this cabin that he opens the sealed envelope containing his orders. He reads them carefully, but is not surprised by the contents. It's the scenario that he and his crew have been training for. Even as Trafalgar quietly makes its way northwards past the Scottish coast, Soviet submarines are rushing out of their bases in the Arctic, and together will make a dash for the North Atlantic Ocean, where they hope to intercept NATO shipping, which carries vital supplies, equipment, troops, and weapons from the United States to Europe. Ed Cook's job is an unenviable one. He must place his submarine in the small gap of ocean between Iceland and the UK and attempt to do his very best to destroy as many of the dozens of Soviet vessels coming towards him as he possibly can. He will be outnumbered, outgunned, and at times even outmaneuvered, but he refuses to be outdone. Trafalgar is the first of the newest class of submarines produced for the Royal Navy. It's fast, they can dive extremely deep, and is extremely quiet. With this cutting-edge technology, the exceptional training of his crew, the grace of God, and a pinch of luck, Ed Cook and his crew might just survive. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my name is SorcererDave, and welcome to Cold Waters, a Cold War submarine game, as the name might suggest. In it, you take command of a Cold War-era sub and fight in the World War III that never really happened, as we take out our submarine to the North Atlantic and battle the Soviets underneath the waves. Or alternatively, because we're playing with Dotmod, I have modded my game. You can find Dotmod over on the Steam forums. You can play as a Soviet sub if you want to. In the vanilla game, you could only play as American subs, but with Dotmod, you can play as Americans, the Soviets, or, as we're going to be doing today, playing as a Royal Navy Trafalgar-class submarine, which is what we're going to be doing, which should hopefully be quite interesting for a number of reasons we'll get into. Additionally, it's going to be an Iron Man campaign, a dead is dead, if you like. If our crew perishes, then so does the series. Now, I've put about 120 hours into this game, according to Steam. I consider myself vaguely competent at it, but yeah, the game still kicks my arse frequently. It's quite hard. It's really quite hard. I've never really been able to get the knack for winning with it all the time. Part of the problem is I deliberately choose to play the less good submarines in the game because I find them more challenging. But we'll see how we get on. I don't know. This video series could last for like 2 episodes, or it could last the entire campaign all the way to the end. I don't actually know how we're going to get on. Should be fun, though, to campaign. Now, we have 4 available. There's the NATO North Atlantic 1984 campaign, the NATO North Atlantic 68 campaign, South China Sea in the year 2000, and the USSR North Atlantic 1984 campaign decided by the mod. We're going to go with North Atlantic 1984. Now, I'm going to confess, I am a little nervous about this. I have been nervous about making a series about this for a while, but just because there's a lot to explain, and I don't know how good a job I'm going to do explaining it. But we'll give it a bash. Let's start. Save file name, let's call it Let's Play 1. Our commander name will be Edward Cook. Ed Cook, as introduced hopefully in the video intro, that I haven't actually made yet, but there you go, there's some behind-the-scenes knowledge for you. Start. Right, we get to choose our submarine, and there's a wide variety of them available, most of them American, because, of course, as I said, in the original game, you can only play as the Americans, unmodded. You got the Skipjack, the Permit, the Sturgeon, the Narwhal, the Los Angeles, and here's what we want. The Trafalgar-class nuclear attack submarine, which I love because it looks like a big derpy whale. It's got a little eye and then a mouth at the front. It amuses me. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, so what do we need to know about the Trafalgar? Well, these are the weapons it carries. It carries UGM-84 harpoon missiles, which you fire out of a torpedo tube. They go out of the tube, then they go up, and they break through the surface of the water, and then they go flying off to attack a ship with. I don't use them very often, because I find that the submarine can't carry enough and launch enough missiles to really actually do enough damage, because enemy ships will have things called close-in weapon systems, which are able to intercept those missiles and shoot them down. We have Tigerfish torpedoes, which are really quite dreadful as torpedoes go. They're wire-guided torpedoes to begin with. They're wire-guided as in they literally have a wire attached to the torpedo which uncoils inside the submarine as it goes out many, many kilometers out. So basically a guy inside the submarine can manually guide the torpedo's path with a controller of some description. It sounds mad, but I promise you it's true. They actually have a wire thing that goes along, and that's how it works. We also have Mark 8 Mod 4 torpedoes. These are torpedoes of World War II vintage. The Royal Navy was still using them in 1984. In fact, rather famously, in 1982 in the Falklands War, HMS Conqueror sank the General Belgrano using a spread of Mark 8 Mod 4 torpedoes. In this game, we will probably never use them. I will bring some along, but we will probably never use them because the Soviets are much better at detecting us than the Argentinians were. And getting close enough to use the Mark 8s is probably never going to actually happen without us being spotted. And if we get spotted, that's really bad. We have Moss decoys. Effectively, it's a decoy thing you can fire out of a torpedo tube, and it mimics the sound profile of a submarine that's traveling at maximum speed. I can't really tell you much about the Moss decoy, really, without showing you, and I can't tell you very much about it as well, because apparently these are still highly classified in terms of how they actually work. The game's representation of them is sort of like an attempt at figuring out, like, this is probably how they work, but we don't know for sure, because submarine warfare is one of those aspects of the military that even today is still incredibly highly classified. We just don't know what a lot of this stuff does. We also have T-LAM missiles, which is basically Tomahawk missiles that we can fire, and they will attack land targets. Essentially, that's what we do. If we ever get a mission when we have to go launch cruise missiles at a land target, that we'll use those. Dimensions are blah 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 blah, boring stuff. A crew of 130, maximum depth of 600 meters. I'm using metric measurements, by the way, because in this game I tend to use Soviet subs a lot because I find them very, very interesting. And just to keep everything nice and consistent, I still use the metric system even when I'm using Western subs. So we're going with meters in this playthrough. It has a max depth of 600 meters, which is really, really good. This submarine, the Trafalgar, can dive much deeper than any American submarine of the period. It can go about as deep as any Russian sub, I think, as far as I'm aware. It's very important because a lot of Soviet weapons and torpedoes and things, they can't go below about 500 meters without the crush depth, sort of the pressure of the water just crushing them and exploding them. So one of the big advantages of the Trafalgar is it can go deep enough that it's just completely untouchable by a lot of Soviet weapons. It has tube stores of 30, so it can carry 30 torpedoes and or harpoon missiles. It has 3 wires. Basically, that's the maximum number of torpedoes we can fire and still have be wire-guided. However, that's a very optimistic it's a very optimistic notion that we should ever get 3 wire-guided torpedoes on the go at once, because we are using tigerfish torpedoes. And the thing about tigerfish torpedoes, as we'll see in this series as we go on, is that they're rubbish. They are really infamously dreadful. They were replaced in the 1990s by the spearfish torpedo, which was very good. But in 1984, the Royal Navy was still using the tigerfish, which was, by all accounts, pretty darn dreadful. In fact, it was even worse in real life than it is in the game. In the game, its unreliability is modelled in the sense that the wire on it breaks incredibly easy. I think it has like a 70% chance for the wire to just snap and the torpedo will go off completely unguided. In real life, it was even more unreliable because it would do all sorts of other things, probably like run too deep or run too shallow at the wrong depth and do all sorts of other silly nonsense. It was a legendarily bad torpedo. The reason why HMS Conqueror used these World War II torpedoes to attack the General Belgrano is because the tigerfishes were so crap. He didn't want to risk using one. We will be using the tigerfishes regardless. They're crap for a number of other reasons, but we'll get into that later. Okay, the self-noise. That's the next thing on the list here. The self-noise of the Trafalgar sub is 115 decibels, which is very, very quiet. The submarine can dive very, very deep, and it can go very, very, very quiet. And one of the reasons why it's very quiet and difficult to detect is also because it has this anechoic coating. Now, if I tilt the submarine around here so that the light is catching it a bit, you can see it's covered in these little tiles. It isn't a smooth surface, it's covered in these little tiles. And basically, these are little rubbery tile things. And this is technology the Germans actually invented in World War II. And it was adopted by the Russians and the Royal Navy, and I think eventually the Americans got around to it too, but not initially. And essentially what they are is that it dampens the effect of active sonar pings on our hull. So if the Russians are looking for us and they're going ping, ping, ping with their sonar trying to find us, this rubbery coating will make it more difficult for them to get a positive return on their sonar scanners, basically. That's essentially how it works. The very basics anyway. Sonar technology and science is very, very complicated, and I can't begin to understand it all properly. I just have a basic knowledge that lets me get away with the game. As for sensors, we have a search radar, which is built into a mast, which you can pop out the top along next to the periscope. It has active and passive sonar. So passive sonar is when you're passively sitting there listening, trying to hear enemy ships and vessels and subs and things. Active sonar is when you're doing the classic ping, ping, ping noise, where you send out a ping and then it bounces back, and through that somehow they're able to determine, oh, there's an object out there under the water somewhere. The downside of active pinging is that obviously as soon as you ping, everybody knows where you are because they can hear you pinging, so we'll be using passive sonar an awful lot of the time. And as a NATO sub, as a Western submarine, we have incredibly good passive sonar. Our active sonar is not as good. The Russians actually have better active sonar than the Western subs do, but the Soviets have worse passive sonar, so they're worse at just listening out for us passively. We also have a towed array. Now, a towed array, as I understand it, on this submarine it actually deploys out of one of the fins at the back here. And it's basically a really big long cable that you deploy out behind the submarine. And that cable is filled with sort of sonar arrays, basically. That's why we call it a towed array, and essentially that's a much more powerful listening device than the one that's installed in the sub itself. You can only use it when you're going quite slowly and at a safe depth, but you sort of deploy it out behind you, and then you go perpendicular to where you think the enemy is going to be, and then hopefully the towed array will pick up the enemy behind you. And one of the other things it can give you is the ability to detect things that are behind you, because sonar doesn't work backwards like this. There's a cone behind every submarine where sonar can't hear anything. It's called your baffles, basically. It's sort of back behind the propeller here, and I'm not totally sure whether it's to do with the angle that the sonar thing is mounted, or if it's simply the fact that the sound of your own engines drowns everything out. But basically, in a cone behind you, normally you can't hear anything, but if you've got a towed array deployed behind you, you can hear behind you, so that's an important piece of technology that we will be making use of. There are some notes here. The Trafalgar class was designed in the early 1970s during the Cold War as a refinement of the preceding Swiftsure class, including HMS Dreadnought. The Trafalgar class are the fifth class of nuclear-powered fleet submarines to enter service with the Royal Navy. The first of the class, HMS Trafalgar, was ordered on 7th of April 1977 and completed in 1983. The last, HMS Triumph, was ordered on the 3rd of January 1986 and completed in 1991. All 7 boats of the class were built and completed by Vickers Shipbuilding and Engineering in Barrow Inverness Shipyard. The first 3 boats of the Trafalgar class were completed by 1985, with their original centre fit of Sonar 2020 and Sonar 2026. I believe 1 or 2 of these boats are still in service today, mostly as training vessels, I think. I think the sub that replaced this eventually was the Astute class in the 2000s, if I recall. But there are 1 or 2 Trafalgar still, floating about. According to this, there should be only 2 of these active in 1984. I don't know if the game actually takes that into account, though. So, anyway, this is the sub we will be captaining. I know that intro was a bit lengthy, but I felt like I said, there's a lot to explain here if you're someone who doesn't really have much familiarity with submarine warfare. I don't want to just play this and assume that everybody watching, knows what I'm talking about. So, let's go. Okay, Commsubplant, Commanders of Submarines Atlantic, I think that's short for. New command assignment. Effectively means that you are hereby assigned command of the Trafalgar class vessel, HMS Trafalgar itself. Nice. We got command of the first of its class. Congratulations and good luck on your new command. Accept. Right. Now we've got a bit of background. What will Reaganism mean for US foreign relations? New President-elect Ronald Reagan has begun his term in office by taking a harsh stance against the Soviet Union. The former Californian governor, once a Democrat, is reputed for his anti-communist stance and for rooting out communist sympathizers in Hollywood in the 1950s. Sounds like a delightful man. The new US president is regarded with suspicion in the Kremlin. Politburo sources claim that President Reagan is regarded as somewhat of a cowboy, whose presidency risks spurring controversy and conflict instead of a continuation of the more detente-oriented policies of Jimmy Carter. Brezhnev's legacy, stagnation and paranoia. Analysis. The death of General Secretary Leonid Brezhnev is sure to result in considerable debate behind the Kremlin walls. The last decade has been one of stagnation and increased bureaucratization of the Soviet colossus. An unnamed diplomatic source was quoted in a recent Time article stating that the constant provocations from the Reagan administration have created an elevated and permanent anxiety concerning American aggression within the Politburo. President Reagan should think this over. It is dangerous. Provoking the bear, is Reagan pushing too hard? Spoilers, he probably is, otherwise we wouldn't have a game to play. With the recent announcement of the Strategic Defense Initiative, SDI, the Star Wars project as it was called, several independent political and security analysts are expressing a growing concern that the Reagan administration may be pressing the Soviets too hard. Tensions between the Soviet Union and the US are continually increasing. The increased US military spending, followed by President Reagan's denunciation of the Soviet Union as an evil empire, raises the question of just how the Kremlin will react. Soviets down civilian airliner. This really happened, by the way. International outrage as the Soviet Air Force shoots down a Korean Airlines aircraft over the Sakhalin Islands. All 269 passengers and crew aboard were killed. The Politburo issued a statement claiming that flight KAL-7 was on a spy mission on behalf of the United States. We regard this as a deliberate provocation to test our military preparedness or even attempt to provoke a war, the Soviet Ministry of Defense said. Tensions between Washington and Moscow are now elevated to a degree not seen since the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. Overall, military readiness is heightened as NATO exercises in the Pacific and Atlantic are denounced by the Soviet Union as deliberate imperialist provocations. NATO did carry out a naval exercise in 1983, I think. I think it was called something safari, Ocean Safari, was that it? I think that's what it was called. They did do one in 1983, so that's actually telling the truth. Pershing missiles deployed in West Germany. Deployment of the new Pershing 2 nuclear ballistic missiles has commenced in locations around West Germany. The introduction of this upgraded medium-range tactical nuclear missile into the United States arsenal has already been the cause of considerable controversy between NATO and the Warsaw Pact, as well as within Germany itself. Independent political analysts agree that the continuous escalation of the arms race, each side's fears of the other side's technical superiority, and the strong anti-Soviet rhetoric of the Reagan administration all adds up to a volatile situation. Moscow's latest threat to withdraw from further arms control negotiations is seen as a particularly disturbing turn of events. The question looming over Europe is how the Soviet Union might react should it consider its diplomatic options to be exhausted. Soviets thought nuclear drill Able Archer was real. This also happened. In a congressional hearing today, the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, Lieutenant General James B. Williamson, told the Senate the DIA's assessment of Soviet response to the NATO Able Archer 83 exercise, which was held last November. General Williamson told a story that is a little too close for comfort. The DIA has concluded that the Soviet Union, for a short while, actually believed the United States was preparing for a first strike nuclear attack, using the exercise as a cover. Thus, Soviet strategic nuclear forces were placed on high alert for at least a week. The strong reaction corroborates the strained diplomatic relations between the US and the Soviet Union. Years of terse anti-communist rhetoric, deployment of advanced new nuclear weapons, and the outspoken ideological friendship between President Reagan and British Prime Minister Thatcher is said to have caused considerable fear among the Soviet leadership. And there you go. In real life, this didn't happen. Soviets attack, war declared. Soviet infantry and armoured units, supported by strike aircraft, have today stormed through the Fulda Gap region of West Germany, penetrating the inter-German border in a surprise attack. Initial negotiation attempts rapidly broke down, and a state of war has officially been declared between NATO countries and the Soviet Union. NATO losses are reportedly high. In the United States, military forces have been fully mobilized and convoys loaded with men, materials and arms have already begun to cross the Atlantic. President Reagan addressed the nation stating that the full might of the United States Army, Marines, Air Force and Navy will be brought to bear on this unprovoked attack. Which brings us to us. We're docked at Faslane, which is where one of the bases the Royal Navy based most of its subs out of, I think. In the vanilla game, it's actually Holy Lock, but I edited it in the files because Holy Lock is an American base and we're playing as a Royal Navy sub. From Copson Plant to HMS Trafalgar, S-107. Mission orders. Tactical situation. Soviet submarines are attempting to break out into the North Atlantic in large numbers. These vessels must be stopped before they have a chance to reach vital shipping lanes. So, in the event of war breaking out, this is what would have happened, basically. The Soviets would have sent an a huge surge of Russian subs off into the Atlantic to try and break through what was called the GI-UK gap, which was the gap of ocean between Greenland, Iceland and the UK. Try and get through that, past the NATO sensor nets that they had installed down there and out into the Atlantic where they could start attacking American and NATO shipping. Primary objective is to transit to patrol area Green 1011 between Iceland and the Faroe Islands. Sink all hostile submarines encountered. Secondary objective, none. Rules of engagement, warning yellow, weapons free on designated targets. MCON, so missions control some things, basically maintain radio silence until otherwise directed. Now we which is whatever, because we don't that's not modeled in the game. It's just there for fun. And this is our stats. There is a sort of RPG element added by the mod. I think it's added by the mod. I haven't played the vanilla game in such a long time, I don't actually remember. But overall, our crew proficiency level is regular. Crew experience is 0, blah, blah, blah. Basically, we get no bonuses for anything because our crew hasn't got any experience at all. And there's some stuff in Russian at the bottom that I don't understand because the mod was made by Russian-speaking people, I think. I'm going to assume, because that's there. Right. Continue. Crews are enjoying some shore leave while we make ready for departure. Now, obviously, I think if this was real, we would already be at sea by the time we were given these orders, but For whatever reason, HMS Trafalgar is still docked at Faslane when all this kicks off. So... all systems operational. We're fully stocked. It's the 23rd December 84. And it's 1,300 hours. Rearm and repair. So let's have a look. This is where we do our loadout for our submarine. We've got damage control there, which shows us all the relevant stuff, systems on the submarine. We don't really care about that right now because we're not damaged. And these are our available weapons. Now, we don't need T-lamps. Our mission is not to attack land targets, so let's get rid of those. We've got 5 Mark 8, those unguided World War II torpedoes I mentioned, loaded. I'll keep them loaded in case we encounter some merchant shipping or something we can sink with them. 5 Mosses loaded. These are the decoys. I'm going to go with just 3. I think we can probably get away with 3. 5 UGM-84 harpoons loaded. I'm going to go with 0. I don't think we need them. And then we've got tigerfish. I'm just going to load the rest of the tube stores with tigerfish. So we've got in total 22 tigerfish on board. No, 22 tigerfish. That will probably be enough, I hope. We can also load spec ops if we want to. We really don't need to, though, because you only do that if you need to do a special mission where you're dropping off commandos, basically, to do some nefarious deeds on the mainland. If you do load spec ops, actually, I think it empties all of your tube stores as well, so to make room for them, basically. So we're all ready to go. Arrows in port 14, and now we do cast off, anchors away. I'm going to press the space bar, and basically this takes us to the campaign map, which effectively, if you've ever played Mount and Blade, it's effectively like that. We have our little submarine here, and I just click and hold the mouse on the map where I want us to go, and stuff will happen on the campaign map. You've got patrol aircraft flying around. They will... These blue ones are ours, obviously. They'll reveal the locations of Russian vessels and subs and things as they fly over, and if they spot any. Likewise, the red ones, the Soviet ones, and they will spot us, and any nearby Russians will move to intercept us if we get spotted by one of these. There'll also be satellites that will occasionally go across as well. They have a slightly different icon, but they effectively do the same thing. And all the little tank logos on the map indicate where NATO and Soviet troops are. And at the moment, the Soviets have pushed into Germany, and that's as far as they've gotten. Though we're looking to take over Norway as well as Sweden and push all the way to the Netherlands and Belgium. If they manage that, then we're toast. The campaign will be pretty much over and we'll lose. So hopefully that won't happen. Now, we've got patrol zones marked out on the map here. This is something added by the mod, I think. And I believe our orders would go to patrol area green 11. Now, you can see here there's these lines over what is the GI UK gap, because it's, Greenland, Iceland, and the UK, this gap here. And these lines are the SOSUS net. I forget what SOSUS actually stood for. But it was a sensor net of sonar buoys, I think, basically, that would detect any Soviet subs passing through, hopefully. And if any Russian sub does go through the SOSUS net, it will actually appear on our campaign map, and we'll be able to see where it is. So there's that. Right. I think that's everything explained. So let's unpause and go. We need to rush on up here to Green 11 and try and intercept as many Soviet subs as we can that go past. I'm going to quickly save the game, even though we're doing an Iron Man series, mostly because this mod is not totally 100% stable. It does crash sometimes, so I'm going to try and save as often as possible. There we go. Right. And now we'll slow to patrol speed by right-clicking the mouse instead of left-clicking. And hopefully try and intercept some Soviet subs, like this one, as they come past. There we go. It's important to go slow at patrol speed on the campaign map as you intercept them, because it means that you'll start the engagement going slower, and therefore you'll be more stealthy. Because the faster you go in your submarine, the more easily the enemy can hear you. As it stands right now, we're starting at 10 knots and our depth at 46 meters. There's a very weak surface duct and a very weak thermal layer. I will explain what that means, because they are important. My orders right now are going to be to close to 15. So we'll close to 15 kilometers. I think we'll close to 20 kilometers. And So status report. Right, we've got... I want to load a decoy, a Moss decoy, into one of our forward tubes, actually. There we go. Yeah, okay. So we've got... Yeah, loads of tigerfish and a Moss. The tigerfish are the only torpedo we have that's capable of sinking an enemy submarine. These Mark 8s, they are only good against surface vessels. You can't sink subs with those because they have no sonar built into them. They can't detect, objects in the water in front of them. They basically just fire and forget. Right. All hands man battle stations. No, wait, no, I think I have to click close 2, don't I? There we go.
Sonar. Rig ship for ultra quiet.
And the first thing I'm going to do is rig the ship for ultra quiet running, which is Shift S or that button down there on the UI. So here we are, floating along in the water. I can press Tab to make the map here go big. And he's already reporting our sonar contacts that we're hearing. So these are vessels around us, or they could potentially actually be sea life like whales, because you do sometimes bump into whales, humpbacks and blue whales out here. What we're going to do is we're actually going to go tootle on up to periscope depth. That's what we're going to do, because what I want to do is I want to just go up to periscope depth and pop up the radar mast to find out how many of these sonar contacts we can hear are actually just random fishing trawlers and merchants and things, rather than actual submarines. Now, we're hunting nuclear submarines, well, potentially diesel-electric submarines as well, but either way, the subs we find, they're going to be underwater. Nuclear subs can stay underwater pretty much indefinitely as long as you've got food on board, essentially, because they have air scrubbers, which get rid of carbon dioxide, and they are able to create oxygen from seawater, which gets taken into the sub, which is kind of clever. I'd love to read more about how that actually works. It's probably some complicated science stuff, but that's how they do it. They also get fresh drinking water by desalinating the seawater as well, so the only thing they really need on there is food to keep going. Right. Let's go up there. I'm going to raise the ESM mast first. We've also got the periscope. In fact, we can raise the periscope if we like first and have a little peek what's up there. If I raise it, now hit the P button, you can have a little look around. It has a night vision mode. There's nothing around, though, at the moment. It is the middle of the night, though, as you can see. You can use this... Oh, actually, there is stuff around. Hello. We can mark that with a laser designator. And that is immediately, if you look at the map, classified that as an M2 Komsomol merchant. It's marked in green, which means it's not a valid target. It's essentially a neutral. Even though that is a Soviet merchant, we don't have. Our rules of engagement today dictate that we're not, I don't think, we're not supposed to attack it. They will sometimes appear in red. Besides, launching a torpedo with an enemy sub around would be a very bad idea, because they would hear the launch and they'd fire at us. So, standard doctrine, basically, is if you hear a torpedo launch, you fire your own torpedo down the bearing that you heard the torpedo launch from, so that the enemy, wherever they are, has got a torpedo coming at them just as they've launched. So if we were just basically float along here and then maybe load one of the old World War II torpedoes and try and sink this Komsomol, which actually I might do, I'm not decided yet, we'd immediately give away our position. Now, I didn't spot anything else over this way, so that might be a sub over in the other direction. I'm going to put the periscope down. We have another mast called the ESM mast. Now, I know that we don't need to use this because the periscope has a meter on it that does the same thing. But if you raise this, it has an ESM meter on it, which basically detects enemy radar emissions. So if you think there's enemy shipping around, you can raise the ESM mast, and if the meter reads in the detection threshold, it means that they can detect your mast, which is not good. But there's no enemy warships around with radar on them, so we can lower that, and we can raise our own radar mast, and we might spot some more shipping. Looks like no, because this here, Sierra 1, our first sound contact, it hasn't changed to a surface contact from the radar. The radar would do that for us if it were the case. So Sierra 1 down there is definitely a submarine. So let's lower the radar mast. And let's try and identify Sierra 1 now. So, here we go. Can identify it using this waterfall sonar display thing here. So we think it's probably a submarine of some sort. So we'll select the sub button down there. There's actually an identification manual up here to go with it. And then basically we've got to find the profile that matches the one down here. And then we can figure out what kind of sub it is. That looks like it might be a Victor 3. I'm not totally sure. We can't see like the last line of it there. What we could do is come down a bit. And then release our towed array. That might give us a better reading. Now, if I go on the conditions page here, you can see that we've got something called a weak duct and a very weak layer. Now, what this essentially is the layer, the thermal layer, is basically where the water changes temperature. And underneath, if you're underneath a layer, anything above it will have more difficulty hearing you if you're under the layer because water, science, stuff, temperature, thing, whatever. But basically the layer creates a kind of shadow zone underneath it where it's more difficult to be heard. A duct, on the other hand, is what appears sort of above the layer sometimes, and essentially what it is it's the sound bounces from the layer and back up to the surface and along like that. And it means that if you're making any noise in the duct, it will carry much further along in either direction. So a surface vessel, for example, would be able to hear us much more easily if we're in the duct. Now, I suspect this submarine might be below this layer, and that's why I can't hear him very well. And it looks like he's potentially turning in this direction, actually, whatever he is. I still can't get it. I reckon it's a Victor 3, which is bad news for us, honestly, because the Victor 3 is one of the best Soviet submarines. The game might automatically classify it for us eventually. Yeah, it has done. Yeah. So we can manually classify these much earlier, but the game eventually does it itself. And yeah, we can confirm now that it's a Victor 3. So the Victor 3 has a max depth of 400 meters. It can go 30 knots, which is about the same speed as us, actually. We're both quite quick. It has passive sonar, obviously, a towed array like us, which is rare for Soviet submarines. It's actually going to make him very difficult to deal with, unfortunately, because we won't be able to sneak up behind him on account of him having a towed array. In fact, let's deploy our towed array, shall we? You should be able to see it coming out the back of the sub. There we go. Lovely. Right. Okay. He has radar just like us. He has Vodopad missiles. Now, what these are a funky little Soviet device, basically. It's a missile you fire out of your torpedo tube. It goes up. It goes out of the water. And then it flies along, and then it comes back down in the water at the designated target point. And what it then does is it releases a torpedo. So essentially, it's a rocket launch torpedo that goes up out of the water and comes back down again and then releases a torpedo on the enemy position. They're really nasty because it means that they can get a torpedo on your location really, really fast. They have Test 71 torpedoes, which, as you can see, there's lots of important information here, like how far they can go, what speed, what the active range of their seeker head is. What their active range is when the torpedo goes active and it speeds up, basically. So it can go 15 kilometers at 40 knots, so it's a very fast torpedo. It has a seeker range of 1,300 meters, so if we get 1,300 meters away from it, hopefully it won't be able to pick us up. And it can go down to a max depth of 400 meters, so we could actually outdive this torpedo in the Trafalgar, which is good news. Unfortunately, they also have USET 80 torpedoes, which is probably what they'd use to get rid of us. I believe the USET 80 is a wire-guided torpedo, much like Western ones. It can go 48 knots, which is ridiculously fast. It has a seeker range of 1,500 meters and a max depth of 1,000 meters, so there's no getting away from the USET 80 in terms of diving, unfortunately. So that's a nasty torpedo that he's armed with right there. He also has Shroud Torpedoes, although we don't really have to worry about that because they're usually in shipping, but they are a really weird sort of rocket torpedo that goes super, super fast underwater. And he has these 65-76 torpedoes, which again, I think are to be used only against surface vessels, so we don't need to worry about those either. If we look down here, we have a sensor comparison, and this is really, really important information. Basically, we can see the higher the number, the easier we are to detect for him. Right now it says 40 on active, so if he were to start pinging us actively, he would find us immediately. 40 is really bad. Passive is currently at -2. He can't hear us. If at 0 or below, they can't hear us. In fact, up to +10, I don't think they can hear us. Initially, if they do acquire us, you have to wait for passive here to go back down below 0 for them to lose us, essentially, I think is how it works. And they have a +1 on the towed array, because his towed array is actually better than his passive sonar for the most part. So what we need to do right now, pretty much, is stay very, very quiet. We can see on the conditions page, actually, what depth he's at. He's currently below the layer, which means he's more difficult for us to hear, but likewise, it goes both ways. We're more difficult for him to hear up above the layer here. So I'm going to stay up here above the layer as we try and sneak past him right now. I think if I were to go below it, he might actually hear us, which is obviously not good. I'm going to adjust our course with the H key.
Come left 2.
Like that.
029, helm I.
The voice acting for this, for the commands and stuff, is American, because of course, you know, there are no British subs in the vanilla game. So there's a little bit of immersion breaking, but I'm afraid we'll have to deal with it. And you'll have to apologise for any inadvertent puns about immersion in a submarine game. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. As a general disclaimer, I apologise in advance. Okay. Yeah, I'm adjusting this so we can try and get a little bit further away from him, because hovering around the 1s and 0s on the sensor comparison makes me a little nervous. I'd like to be quieter than that for him, honestly. As he continues getting a little bit closer right now. He's zigzagging a bit, and they'll do that, but he'll probably keep doing so, probably keep going this way. I can actually sort of, yeah, there's a wake for where he's been. We can also do custom marks on the map with the shift key, like so, if we need to. But for now, I just want to... Oh, we can even go and look at him now. Now that we've got like a 95% solution on him, we can actually look at him in the external view if we want to. That's what a Victor 3 looks like. It's quite a good-looking sub, actually. I have to admit, the Victor 3 is just... Ah, man, it's just... It's one of my favourite submarines ever. It's just... It looks really mean. It is really mean, though, as well. The Victor 3 is one of the worst ones we could run into in the Trafalgar. Mostly because his torpedoes are better than ours. I've talked about how the Tigerfish is basically terrible. I've already talked about how unreliable it was, and it's modelled in the game in terms of the wire break chance of it being really, really, really bad. If we click this button, we can have stats on the Trafalgar itself, and we can actually look at the Tigerfish here. Now, the Tigerfish... Now, bearing in mind, the Soviet sub, his torpedoes could go at 48 knots. The Tigerfish does 24 knots when it's not active. When it goes active, it goes a measly 35 knots. Basically what this means is that some Soviet submarines, and actually a lot of Soviet surface ships, can actually just outrun our torpedoes. All they have to do is turn tail and leg it, and our torpedoes just physically can't catch them before running out of fuel and exploding harmlessly behind them. It does have a good seeker range, almost twice the seeker range of the Russian torpedoes, which is good. It has a max depth of 600 meters as well, so we can fire it safely from our max depth without it being crushed and blowing up immediately. Yes, there's a bit of info as well here. It is wire-guided. The Mark 24 Tigerfish was a heavyweight acoustic homing torpedo used by the Royal Navy during the 80s and 90s. Conceptual development dates to the mid-1950s and not formally started in 59, with a target introduction made in 69. The first prototype Tigerfish examples were delivered in 67. So we're using torpedoes essentially from 1967, really, is what we're dealing with right now. And they're crap. They're rubbish. The Americans have the Mark 48 torpedo, which is 100 times better. Unfortunately, we're not the Americans. We're the British, and we can't afford a better torpedo. So this is what we're stuck with. As just to note, the Victor at top speed can do 30 knots, which means it will outrun our torpedo when it's inactive. If our torpedo goes active, it's only 5 knots faster than the Victor. So if the Victor has enough range on us to begin with, he can probably get away long enough to outrun the torpedo, just long enough for it not to be able to get him. So, with the Tigerfish, we have to actually be quite close to the target before we use it. And when we fire it, there's a good 70% chance it'll go dumb and fire it and just carry on swimming along in the direction that we sent it in. We won't be able to control it after it's launched. So that's grand. It's going to be fun dealing with. And by fun, I mean excruciating at times. It also doesn't like it if you launch the torpedo going particularly fast. Now that's true of basically all torpedoes, but it's especially true of the Tigerfish. I have had the Tigerfish on occasion explode immediately after coming out of the torpedo tube if I'm going too fast. And by too fast I mean anything above like 10 knots. So I need to try and remember to do a speed check every time I launch a torpedo in this game, otherwise I will blow myself up, and that will be a very stupid end to the series. So we can probably safely guarantee that's exactly how the series will eventually end, now that I think about it. Okay, well, this is taking a little while. The numbers are creeping up on his passive and towed array right now. His passive is on +4. If it gets to +10, we're in the proverbial, basically. If it gets to +10, we immediately need to launch a torpedo in his direction and hope for the best. And we need to speed up and get out of dodge because he'll be launching back at us. Hopefully it won't come to that. I'd like to get round behind him and then launch a torpedo at him from behind. Now, he'll still be able to hear us thanks to his towed array, but the fact that we're behind him means that when he launches his torpedoes, we'll have to go out and turn around, and it'll give us more reaction time, and so on and so on and so on and so on. So sometimes as well, if he decides to speed up a bit or retract the towed array, he won't be able to hear us as well. We can get lucky occasionally. If the number down here on the passive or the towed, but incidentally goes below -20, I think we can actually safely launch a torpedo without him even hearing the launch. That will sometimes come up, probably not with this guy though. I think. Yeah, I want to keep going in this direction. Right, if I press the F9 key, we can enable time compression here to speed things up a bit. We're currently doing 5 knots, so we're going very slowly, and we're rigged for silent running. You can actually see here how much noise we're making. We're making 115 decibels of noise right now. If I were to stop the engines completely and have us just float here, it would retract the towed array, because the towed array only works if you're moving forwards, but I think we could probably get our noise output down to 110 decibels if we really need to. But I could probably go even slower, go down to like 1 knot or 2 knots, and that would make us a bit quieter as well. Right, I think we're safe to turn this way now.
Come right to 085, helm I.
And we're just going to stalk him for a while. I'm not totally convinced he's the only submarine out here as well, by the way. We don't have no guarantee right now that there aren't other Soviet submarines out here somewhere that we don't already know about right now, so this is why I want to stalk him for a while and kind of delay attacking as long as possible, just so we can get a much clearer picture of what's out here under the water with us. So, because I have been killed many a time in this game by basically assuming incorrectly that I was alone when I wasn't.
Con, helm, steady course.
Okay. Right. I am going to continue going around behind him, like so. Okay, he just pinged. He's gone with active sonar, which means he's definitely he definitely knows where we are now. 1 ping only, please. Thank you. Right. He's almost certainly heard us. Right, I'm going to launch a torpedo. Quickly. Tigerfish torpedo. I've set it to go active pinging the enemy as soon as it goes active. It'll also go in a search pattern, wiggling from left to right, and it'll launch at the same depth that we're currently at. So, in fact, I'm going to set it to go a bit lower because the enemy is lower than us. There we go, and I'm going to launch, assuming that the wire will immediately break, because that's what usually happens. So I want to go about there-ish.
Fire control, we've lost the
yeah,
wire.
we have lost the wire. I'm going to launch another one, same settings, and we're now going to leg it. We're going to go maximum speed. Full speed ahead, and we're going to go right down to 600 meters on maximum test depth. Retract the towed array if we can. Actually, and if we go too fast, we'll break the towed array, so I need to quickly retract that back in. It is coming back in, and now we can safely go fast. All right. His torpedoes are coming right at us. Gonna bring us right a bit. And basically, I want to try and get out to the side here. We're notching the torpedo right now, is essentially what it's called. And I want to get out of its seeker cone, because there's a cone in front of the... We've lost sight of the torpedoes right now, because we're going so fast we can't hear them anymore. He's still pinging us. I could go active to ping him as well if I need to. Right now I don't. I can still see him. But essentially I want to try and get out here as fast as possible and out of the seeker cone of those incoming Soviet torpedoes. Now, as we discussed, assuming he's using his best torpedoes, and he probably is, they have a seeker range of about 1.5 kilometers. So in a cone coming about this far, if we assume the torpedo's in the middle of the crosshair here, this cone really right here is where he'll be able to detect us, the torpedo. We want to get outside of that cone, which is why we're going down, because the cone is vertical as well as horizontal, so we're going down as deep as we can, and we're going as fast as we can to try and get away from those. And we're going to hope in vain, that maybe one of our tigerfish will latch onto the Victor and give him some problems, because if we can get him to go defensive and start trying to evade torpedoes, that will give us a window of opportunity to strike back at him.
Come right to 111 helm I. Con helm steady course.
Yep, he's still pinging away. That's mostly probably why we're able to still hear him right now, because we're going so fast and our engine's working so hard that we're making a lot of noise. 144 decibels right now we're doing. And bearing in mind, decibels are a logarithmic scale as well. It's not a linear scale, so I think something like 10 decibels is twice as loud as 1 decibel or something. I forget exactly how it goes. But basically we're being incredibly loud right now. Suffice to say. What depth is he at? Right, he's gone down to almost his max depth as well. Or no, he hasn't. Right, I just needed to increase the scale here. We'll be down at our max here. It's good to check this, actually, because sometimes the seafloor might be shallower than you think, and you don't want to go diving straight into it. That would be a bad idea. He's staying at kind of mid-depth right now. We've gone deep. And I can't see any of his torpedoes. If we were to slow down right now, run silent, and listen, we might be able to hear his torpedoes. But right now, I don't think we can afford to slow down. We need to get out of that seeker cone. He's turning right a bit. He's zigging slightly. Very soon. I can kind of guesstimate based on... Okay, yeah, he still knows where we are, and he's now launched one of those missiles I told you about, the ones that deliver a torpedo. I'm going to drop a decoy, which is like a little fizzy thing in the water which can spoof torpedoes a little bit. And what we're going to do is I'm actually going to fire our Moss decoy in a second. Actually, no, I'm not. I'd have to slow down to do that. Alright, you can see our little tigerfish going out here, and there's probably no way they're going to detect that Victor. They have a seeker range of about 2,700 meters, so around here-ish. And unless this Victor turns around and goes this way like an idiot, they aren't going to get him right. His torpedoes looks like they're going past behind us. So we've avoided his initial salvo. Hopefully we can avoid that missile-launched one. In fact, I think we should be fine with the missile-launched one. Because the maximum depth of the little torpedo that is launched by the missile... There you go. That's the one in question. Up it goes. The maximum depth of the little torpedo on the end of this missile is actually, I think, 400 meters. So down at 600, he can't get us with these. So, to be honest with you, I don't know why he's launching them. Let me just double check that, actually. Payload parameters. Max depth 500 meters. Right, okay, it's not 400, it's 500. The UGMT-1, that's the name of the little torpedo on the end there. It's a lightweight torpedo as opposed to a heavyweight torpedo. And yeah, at our depth currently, he can't touch us with those, so he's basically just wasting ammunition. Now you can see that his torpedo, one of them, has got a different search pattern to ours. We've gone with the snake search pattern. He's gone with a circular one, so it just goes round and round and round, and anything basically within 1.5 kilometers of there is going to get detected. Thankfully, we're just outside that. Problem is, this one here that's going round and round isn't, although I think this one here is probably the missile torpedo. His other one is a straight runner. So at this point,
rig ship for ultra quiet.
I'm going to rig for ultra quiet. We're going to make a right turn. We're going to slow down, and then I'm going to consider launching again. He's facing towards us now, so I think what we'll do is probably do a spread of 3. In fact, we'll break ultra silent just to reload. I'm going to set these to active. Keep the same search pattern. And if I can delay it long enough, I will, because what I'd like to do is actually come up to his depth before launching, so our torpedoes will be at the right level. It means more chance of them getting a positive lock.
Contact on Master 2, bearing 3.
Master 2. Oh, regain contact on the merchant ship. Okay, good. Good to know. Can he still hear us at this point? Yes, he can still very easily hear us. He's not very far away at all, after all. What's the seeker range on the Vodopad missiles? It is 1.5 kilometers. So if we were to come up any higher, that thing would acquire us and probably come after us. So we're stuck down here at 600 meters for the moment, which is not really superb, to tell you the truth. I'm paralysed by indecision right now. I don't know whether I should start speeding up again or just fire. I'm inclining towards just fire, even though we're not really with the right depth. We could come up to just under 500.
Make depth 518, dive by.
Let's do that. This torpedo up here will probably be going in a spiral downwards. That's generally how the air-launched ones work. They start at the surface and they spiral their way down, so there might be a margin of error here we can use. It looks like both of his sub-launched ones were straight runners, and both of his air-launched ones were the circular ones. So, good to know. So let's come up. Now, I'm still running quietly right now. In fact, we'll switch to ultra quiet right now. I'm still running quiet, in spite of the fact he knows where we are. Excuse me. As you can see there. Mostly because, actually for our own benefit right now, for my ability to be able to hear what's going on around us, because that's the other benefit of going quietly, is you can actually hear better. So we can actually hear our own torpedoes out there somewhere, having gloriously missed their target. What's our current depth? 527 meters. Press X to go straight and level. You can actually steer the submarine with WAS and D. If you want to as well, and C and E on the keyboard to control the ballast, which is sometimes a really good thing to do when you're trying to evade a torpedo that's locked onto you. Alright, what I'm going to do now is we're going to fire a spread at him. I think that's the best way you can guarantee success with Tigerfish, honestly, is, and you really can't guarantee it, but the best chances you have for success are basically to launch a volley of the things. Like I said, standard practice, at least for me in this game, is to treat the Tigerfish as if they are dumb torpedoes. And then launch a spread. If we were playing as the Americans with their lovely Mark 48s, we could just launch one torpedo and quite happily guide that towards the target using the cable. But the Tigerfish cable's probably going to snap. So let's launch. The point I'm pointing at here on the map is the point at which the torpedo will go active and begin its search pattern and start pinging away. I think I want that point to be kind of around here-ish. So check speed, 5 knots, we're good to go.
Come right to 2.
Oh, that was the wrong thing. No.
Helm I.
Sorry, space and then fire. I'd press the heading button instead. Okay. And fire 1.
Aye, sir.
Fire 2.
Control, we've lost the wire.
Fire 3.
Fire control, we've
Now,
lost
we got
the
lucky
wire.
there, the first one we launched actually kept its cable.
Con, helm, steady course.
What I'm going to do here now is something interesting. It's called doglegging. What we're going to do, and this is basically just to try and confuse him a bit, hopefully. He hasn't counter-launched at us yet, which is interesting. Maybe he hasn't reloaded his tubes yet, I'm not sure. I'm going to bring the torpedo out this way a bit. I'm going to turn the submarine a little bit this way, because if the torpedo goes too far behind us, the cable will snap. I'm going to bring the torpedo out this way a bit before turning in towards him, because what means is by the time they get to around maybe here-ish and he detects them, if he hasn't done so already, he'll be less able to kind of figure out where the torpedo was launched from, basically. And oh god, we're going to quickly get that. Oh, it's too late. Never mind, it's gone active. However, we still have manual control over it. In fact, I can switch it to passive en route if I want to. Now, passive, basically, instead of active, is the torpedo doesn't ping, is the way it works. It locks onto sound that it passively hears, like we passively listen with our sonar, essentially. Which is really good if you want to sneak up on an enemy sub and launch one right up his baffles, right up the tailpipe, without him noticing you. We're going to change our depth right now. We're going to go back down to 600 meters.
Make depth 610, dive by.
There we go.
Make depth 60.
That torpedo that was up here, that just exploded. You might have heard that, and it's gone now. That was the air launch torpedo. They don't stick around for very long. They don't have a lot of fuel. Yeah, and we're just going to guide this in actively. So now it's gone active, I'm basically using my numpad keys to guide it. If we go to the weapons screen here, you can actually do it with little buttons. And we can actually change the depth that the torpedo is at as well, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to use the numpad keys to make the torpedo go up to about his depth, which means it will be much more likely to lock on. And you can actually see visually represented here the sensor cone. This is going to be a long video. I've just noticed we're about to go past an hour, not including the intro. But there was a lot to explain, so I felt it was necessary. Future videos will probably be shorter. Okay, now you can see on here the torpedoes are about roughly the same depth as him, which means we'll have a much better chance of locking onto him. And also, when we get closer, I will switch it back to active pinging, which will be much more likely to acquire him at this point. Actually, I might not need to. Right now, you see, what he's doing is he's legging it. He's booking it out of here. He knows that he's got a tigerfish, well, a few tigerfishes headed towards him, and he knows that probably his best chance is actually to just leg it as fast as he can and hope that they don't catch him before they detonate. We can only hope that because we've launched so close, literally we're about 8 kilometers away from him right now, that he isn't going to be able to get away fast enough. And if we're lucky, we'll be able to slide this torpedo up right behind him. I won't even have to go active pinging, so he won't even know it's there. That's the advantage of a passively homing torpedo. It's more difficult to passively home in on a submarine because they are quite quiet. But the advantage, really, is that he won't hear it coming. He can if you've got an active pinging torpedo like these ones will be when they activate, he'll hear it coming and he can take evasive maneuvers. With this, he won't have a bloody clue. Well, he probably won't have a bloody clue if as long as we keep it behind him in his baffles, because if we go to the signature tab here, oh, he's actually slowed to 5 knots. That was foolish. We'll definitely catch him now. For a moment there, you see like he sped up. He turned around here and he sped up and he decided to go whoom off in this direction. And in order to do that, he had to retract his towed array so he couldn't hear us. And right now, because we're in his baffles, and I aim to stay there, actually, I'm going to change our direction right now so we can stay behind him. He can't hear us at all. He can't hear us at all. The towed array, which he's popped out behind him probably, I think, at this point, is at 0. And that means I think he's probably lost us as a result of that. I think if it goes to 0 or below, he's lost us. So I don't think he knows where we are right now. He's still pinging, but he can't hear us if we're behind him and he's pinging, I think, is the way it works. Because if you look at active right now, it's at -50. And minus 50 is like the bottom of the scale. It goes from like minus 50 to plus 50. So when you're at minus 50, it's like he has no idea where you are. It's the toad that's on 0 that's a little more... is pretty much the only thing we need to worry about right now until he decides to turn around. And he might do soon, but as you can see, our torpedo is catching up with him. I'm going to go ahead with time compression now. Right, you can see one of our tigerfish has gone active right there, and number 2 has gone active as well. Actually, I think that was 2 and 3. Technically, this is number 1. Which means they'll speed up. However, they're not going to go much faster because actually they're in the snake search pattern, which will slow them down. These guys probably won't get him. Number 1 here with the cable still attached probably will get him. At least I'm hoping so. And this is why it's so important to have a cable, a wire-guided torpedo versus a dumb one. Because as you can see, the dumb one's very unreliable. It goes off, it tries its best to actively search, but ultimately it's, you're not guaranteed a lot of success. Most of the Soviet torpedoes are dumb ones like that, with the exception of his fancy USA 80s he's been using. Let's just adjust course a little bit so we're directly behind him. There we go. Lovely. We could have a little look at our torpedo, actually. Here it is. It's got Royal Navy and Tigerfish Marconi written on the side. Bright yellow bits on it. It's a very flashy looking torpedo, really, actually, to be honest. Proudly branded like a racing car. Not sure why you'd want to associate yourself with such a dreadful product, frankly, but whatever. That's a question for Marconi to answer and not myself. That's us, and we can have a look at the Victor 3. There he is, tootling along. I don't really know what he's doing, to be honest with you. He must know there's torpedoes coming after him. Ooh, okay, the ping is loud if you have the camera on him. Okay, yep. I'm basically just waiting to see here if he turns, if he detects this torpedo with his towed array somehow, and takes evasive action. Problem is, if he takes evasive action, I think one of the other torps might catch him. Perhaps that's why he's legging it in a straight line. Oh, okay, no, he was turning there. I've lost my torpedo, actually. It's gone. I'm not sure what happened there. Did we run out of cable? I genuinely have no idea. We can't hear him as easily, though. Our solution for him has gone down to 67%. I'm not sure what happened there. Did we have a cable break? What happened? It usually tells you when there's a wire break. It might have just run out of steam. That one's pinging. That's pinging. There's only 2 torpedoes in the water right now. I think it might have run out of steam. That is bloody unfortunate, honestly. Maybe this one will get him, but I doubt it. I think it's probably too deep to detect him. I think he's up above it somewhere. It's a bit of a mystery that I'm not sure what happened to the torpedo. I guess it must have run out of steam. That's my only explanation, honestly. But I'm a little surprised because the range on these things, if it goes active, and it did go active earlier than I intended it to, actually, admittedly, is 18 kilometers. Did it really travel 18 kilometers there? I'm a little confused. I don't know if it did. Well, he's still pinging away. Let's get our towed array out. Let's turn this way. We're no longer in his baffles, unfortunately, but we are far enough away that I think if we were to launch a torpedo right now, he still wouldn't hear us.
Rig ship for ultra quiet.
Yeah, let's run quiet, just to make it easier to see him. There we go. Ooh. Yeah, the range estimate was wrong because the solution wasn't very good. He's a bit further out than I thought he was. You know what? If he's not careful, this torpedo might get him. Let's wait and see what happens. Time compression. No, it exploded. Okay, it's too far away. Okay, this guy's going to be difficult to deal with, apparently. Told you Victor 3s are rough to deal with as a Trafalgar.
Helm I.
Looks like we're going to be going head-on at each other.
Con sonar lost contact.
We're doing a bit of torpedo jousting here. I know that's not a euphemism.
Contact faded.
Run silent. Come up to about 300 meters.
Make depth 300, dive I.
So with time compression on. We've actually lost him completely now. He's gone so quiet that we can't hear him at all. We just know he's out here somewhere. That was the last place we saw him. I'll actually mark that on the map, I think. Get rid of these. We don't need these. That's the last place we saw him, and he was heading this way, so...
Dive at 300, dive I.
I think the reason we don't know where he is now is because he stopped active pinging. That's probably why we lost him. I'm going to actually turn us to the right this way. If we're... I almost said flying, but that's not really the right... If we're swimming, I guess, perpendicular to him, there's a better chance that the towed array behind us will be able to pick him up, because it's a long cable with an array in it. Therefore, more of the array is pointing this way than it is this way. In fact, the towed array doesn't detect anything in front of you at all because it can't see through the submarine. It's like the reverse of our internal sonar. So I'm going to just... We're going to go perpendicular to him right now. And hopefully maybe we'll catch something on the passive sonar on the towed array. It's not looking great though so far, is it?
Come left to 309 helm I. Con helm steady course.
So yeah, basically what happened is we spotted each other. He fired, I counter-fired. We both evaded. And as you saw, he quite handily outran my torpedoes, which is, again... This is why the Tigerfish torpedo sucks. If we were Americans and we'd fired a Mark 48 at him, he'd be dead right now. But as it is, we've both basically turned around and we're coming back at each other to try again.
Come left.
Okay, I've skipped ahead a bit. I didn't want to sit here forcing you guys to watch me search for him again, but we have located him again using passive sonar, and we've got a solution on it, 75%, and as we continue to observe, the solution is going to keep going up and up and up. I'd only really be confident in knowing exactly where he is once it gets to about 95%. Right now it's at 75, but he's down here somewhere in this kind of area, moving in this direction. Now, bearing in mind that's the last place he was, I think. It looks like what he did is he doubled back and turned around like that. What I do know is that he's at 8, positive 8 on his towed array right now. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to retract my towed array and we're going to stop the sub completely.
Make turns for 0 knots. Maneuvering I.
I'm going to get as quiet as possible. Try and keep this below 10. If it hits 10, he's got us. If he goes active, he's also got us. But right now, he's not going active. Okay, 80% solution. I'm going to risk a bit of time compression here. Toad's gone back down to 3, back down to 6, 5. It's bouncing around a bit, but there he is. Solution 95%. We've got him again. Okay. Hello there, Ivan. If you look at the signature thing here, we've barely got him, honestly. We've got him plus 17 on our passive sonar. And this is the big advantage of NATO subs, is their incredibly good passive sonar compared to the Soviets. Look, he's got us on passive plus 1, we've got him on plus 17. It's a huge advantage being able to know where they are, and they don't know where we are. When you're playing as the Soviets, on the other hand, it's a totally different ballgame because it's all about being super aggressive. Filling the sea with torpedoes and pinging away like a madman. It's actually quite fun to play. It's very lethal, though. You know, you don't tend to survive nearly as long in a Soviet sub. Of course, the Soviets, what they tended to do was hunt in packs. You'd have a lot. They had the worst subs, and so what they'd do is they'd group them together in wolf packs. I think we got very lucky today that this Victor 3 is by himself. By alone, he has given us quite some trouble. Sometimes these guys, you'll get them in threes, like you'll have 2 Victor 3s and a Victor 2 or something. In which case, it sort of becomes a question of actually, do we want to risk engaging them at all in our little Trafalgar? Our sub is great. The Trafalgar is a superb submarine, but it's armed with such bad weapons that it's sort of like the equivalent of some sort of samurai swordmaster who you've equipped with a wooden spoon. There's only so much he's going to get done with that spoon, you know? Okay, we're just going to float here. We're just going to float here on the spot. Quiet as a mouse. Unfortunately, he is getting closer. He's travelling in this direction, which means he's going to eventually get to sort of around here-ish. And I feel like once he gets to maybe around here, he's going to hear us no matter what. We're only at 110 decibels right now. We are super quiet. But it's already at 6 on its towed array. That's the main problem. And as he gets further out here, his towed array will get a more perpendicular sort of look at us as well. So yeah, he's going to detect us eventually, at which point, again, it's going to be a case of fire the missiles. We're going to fire loads of torpedoes at him and hope for the best. I may consider firing a decoy at him as well, because he might be able to tell it's a decoy and not a real sub, but his torpedoes won't. His torpedoes might go after the decoy, and they might follow the decoy as it makes its way down here, and eventually they'll make attack runs at the decoy. They'll go in towards it, end up going past it, and then they'll turn around to try and go locate it again. It's part of their pre-programmed behavior that they have. And as they're turning around, sometimes what happens is they can lock onto another submarine if it's in the vicinity nearby. And so what an interesting strategy to do in this game sometimes is to fire a decoy directly at the enemy. And sometimes what will happen is once their torpedoes go active, if you time it right, they'll lock onto your decoy, they'll turn around, and they'll follow the decoy back towards the enemy submarine, at which point the enemy submarine can sometimes be sunk by his own torpedoes. To quote Hunt for Red October, "You arrogant ass, you've killed us." We'll see how that we get on though. I've let time compression run for a bit. And the sense of comparison's getting a bit funky, really, to be honest with you. The towed statistic keeps jumping from as low as 3 to as high as 8. Yeah, it's just jumped up to 8 there. It's probably going to keep doing that and only get higher as he gets close to us. So, all things considered, at this point, with us handling at the same depth as him, pardon me if you just heard my phone go off in the background. Immersion ruined. All things considered, I think I'm actually going to try and fire a torpedo at him right now. In fact, I'm going to fire a few. Because I don't think we have a much better option right now. He'll get closer, he'll hear us, then he'll launch first. Or I don't know, maybe we somehow evade detection, go past, and we'll be in the same problem because he's got his towed array out, so I can't really sneak up behind him. So I think, all things considered, I'm just going to go for it. We're going to fire it. A few torpedoes, we're going to gun the engine, we're going to dive down to 600, and we're going to hope for the best. Basically. So here goes. Now, if I do this, there's a little blue dot out in front of him there, and that indicates the estimated point he'll be at when the torpedo gets there. So we want to kind of aim in that direction for if he was totally oblivious to us, you know, that's where he would go. Of course, though, as soon as he hears the launch, he'll probably evade in some random direction. So this is why we fire a spread, basically, because again, we're operating on the assumption that the cable will snap and the torpedo will just go. So yeah, I've set all my torpedoes to active. I think it's time to launch.
Fire one. Control con sonar. Sierra 1 is classified as submerged. Con sonar. Launch transient from Sierra 1.
Launch 3. He's already fired back at us. Go. Go, go, go.
Turns for 3, 2 knots. Maneuvering eye.
That direction. If we go that way now, we might evade that torpedo completely. On the other hand, we might want to try turning around. It's going to take too long to do that, though.
Helm, steady course. Con fire control, we've lost the wire.
Yeah, we did have a wire on one of them, but it's too late at this point. We need to evade, so we're going to lose that wire. It's no big deal. It's fine. We're already doing 25 knots. Actually, we're accelerating quite well, and we're getting down there too. Looks like he's going full steam ahead, actually, so he might evade all of these just by going straight ahead. I should have launched one further out this direction. Is there still time? No, there isn't. He's got one coming straight towards me right now. I'm going to risk something here, and I'm going to try turning in this direction to get away from that torpedo. I don't know how quick we can get around here.
Come right to 076.
Contact us in the baffles. Yeah, he's got into a baffle, so we did lose him there for a second. We'll probably reacquire him very quickly, though. I'm going to drop the decoy as well to try and mask us a bit from that other torpedo. Yep, we're reacquiring him now. And I think probably all this tigerfish will miss. I didn't do a very good spread, unfortunately. I should have. I assumed he would make a turn, but he didn't. He just carried on straight on the direction he was going, which was foolish of me. While we're going nice and loud and fast, let's reload our torpedoes again. There's a reason why I brought so many with us, because I knew that this sort of situation might occur.
Come right to 10.
Alright, time compression on.
Con, torpedo room, tube 1 ready.
Okay, just keep going. We're both going parallel to each other now. Right, he's turning in my direction. That's certainly interesting. What's he doing that for? Looks like his other torpedo's going off. It's around here somewhere. We're already past it, more or less.
Come right to con sonar. Launch transient.
He's fired again.
Sierra 1.
Stick this up your pipe and smoke it, chump.
Con helm steady
Wait,
course.
speed check. We're going too fast.
Back emergency.
Back emergency. That'll slow us down. Below 10. Good.
Make turns
Fire.
for 5 knots. Maneuvering eye.
Go like this.
Shoot 2-1. Aye, sir.
Oh, we actually kept the cable on this one, which is unfortunate because I'm going to have to lose it again, I think. Let's see, which way are you going to go, mate?
5 knots.
Wonder what kind of torpedo we launched at us. If it's a USET 80, we need to move. Let's assume it's a USET 80, and let's move.
Come left to. Make turns for 3.
We'll set the torpedo yet to go active around there-ish. In fact, we'll change it a little bit to there. Wow, we lost it. That's where it's going to go now. We'll get to about there-ish, then it'll start wiggling, and hopefully it'll acquire him. Hopefully. We're firing from below him at this point, so it's sort of...
Con helm steady course.
Oh no, it's... Okay, there we go, fixed it. Had some text glitch on the screen there. He's turning back this way, okay. Hang on a minute. It almost looks like his torpedo turned off to the right there. Do you know why I think that is? I think it's because he's using wire-guided ones. He's using the UZ-80, and he changed the direction of it. He saw we were going that way. He changed the direction of his torpedo using the wire. I forget sometimes the Soviet subs have those. But because he's gone defensive now, I hope that he's broken that wire. And now it's just going to go off that way somewhere. So I've reversed our direction now. That other one he launched has gone past us at this point. Yeah, it's up there.
Con, helm, steady course.
Rig shift for ultra quiet. Make depth 4.
I'm going to come up to 300.
Dive I.
Slow down, come up to 300. Can he hear us? No, he's just gone -4 on passive. Although, no, he's still pinging us, so never mind. Okay, that torpedo's changed direction again. That's a problem.
Come right to. Make turns for 3, 2, 9.
Speed up.
Maneuvering I. Come right to 0, 9.
You know what?
Helm I.
Let's quickly slow down.
Make turns for 0 knots. Make turns for
Let's fire a decoy.
5 knots. Maneuvering I.
Shoot tube 5. Aye, sir.
Reload another decoy and another torp.
Come right to 0.
Maximum speed, let's go.
Make turns for 3, 2 knots. Maneuvering I. Con, sonar, lost con.
Might have to call it quits on this guy eventually.
Con, sonar, lost contact. Sierra, 1.
Okay.
Last bearing, 2, 3.
Con, dive at 600, dive I.
Hopefully we can get away from him.
Come right to 103. Helm I.
Yeah, these Soviet subs with towed arrays are just so hard to deal with. If you can't sneak up on them, you're in trouble.
On Sierra 1, bearing 250.
I wish he was over there. This torpedo might catch him if he was, but he's not. He's over here somewhere. Probably there, maybe. I'd say probably. One of our tigerfish is sailing right past him right now.
Come right to 117. Helm I.
Okay, one of the torpedoes just detonated. Probably one of ours. And judging by the pings coming from this direction, the red lines, you see those? I think that his torpedo that was coming towards us, I think it's latched onto the decoy.
Come left to 32.
Let's turn back around this way. Oh, for goodness sake, not again.
Con, helm, stay back emergency.
Slow down. Fire one down his bearing.
5 knots. Maneuvering I.
Fired from about there, did he? Okay.
Con, fire control, we've lost the wire. Con, fire control, we've lost the wire. Shoot 2-3. Aye, sir.
Okay, we actually kept the wire on that one, but he still knows where we are, so I'm going to try and stay slow for as long as I can here.
Make turns for 5 knots.
Just to keep the wire on this torpedo. Because having a wire on the torpedo is like the one thing that might actually give us an advantage over him. If we keep firing away here with dumb ones, we're never going to get him. Looks like he's going this way. Ah, look, this one's caught onto my decoy as well. That's nice, that's perfect. Bad news is, looks like this tigerfish here might catch our decoy as well.
Sonar, launch transient from Sierra 1.
Okay, he's fired again. Wonder where that one's going. He's going after the decoy, you moron! Oh, I need to use decoys more often. Okay, he's actually fired at the decoy, even though he must... I'm convinced in real life at that distance he would know it's not a real submarine. I mean, come on. But okay, whatever. Guess he's not willing to take that risk. He must have figured it out by now. It's a decoy, you idiot. What depth are we at? Right, we need to change the depth of this torpedo. It's much too shallow. Can't do that, unfortunately, until it goes active. And we're probably gonna have to go active now. So let's go weapons, active, and then we can go to conditions page, and I can start bringing the torpedo up from the depths. He's still firing at the decoy. Wow. I have lost all respect for you, comrade captain. I thought you were a worthy adversary until now. I'm actually amazed. I haven't had this happen very often, to be honest with you. Normally, I use decoys on the basis of I assume the enemy submarine can tell the difference between a decoy and a sub. Therefore, I use the decoy in order to spoof not him, but his torpedoes. But yeah, I guess he's gone for it. I've seen surface ships go for a decoy before, but I've never seen a sub do it before. This might be what kills him, honestly, because I think any of these three tigerfish here have a good chance of locking onto him at the moment. Actually, maybe not these two, because these two are still down at like 600 meters, so he might be above their sensor cone, but not the middle one.
Sonar,
he's launching it. He keeps launching at the decoy. Wow. That feels almost cheesy, knowing that they will do that.
Sonar, launch transient from Sierra 1. Sonar, noisemaker bearing 239.
Yeah. He knows what we knows we're onto him right now. In fact, look, this one's locked onto him as well. Now he's launched a noisemaker, and as you can see, it's
fire control, weapon acquired.
It momentarily confused our torpedo there. Now they have a certain logic, torpedoes, for dealing with noisemakers. They have like I think it's called drive around logic. Basically, what it will do is it will go out if it's got a decoy in front of it. He's dropping another one. It will go out and it will go around, and it will try and get around the noisemaker and redetect. At the moment, as you can see, there's two noisemakers here. Our main torpedo we still have control over. It's lost the plot. It doesn't know where he is. Luckily, we know where he is, and therefore we can guide the torpedo onto him. In fact, right now, I think my torpedo is trying to lock onto this noisemaker right now here.
Fire control, weapon acquired.
Yeah. Briefly there, it was countermeasure homing, which means it was homing in on the noisemaker. But because we have manual control still from the wire, we can manually override them and be like, no, you're not going after the noisemaker. You need to go this way. And sometimes you do have to kind of fight the logic of the torpedo, actually. Like right now, it just wants to go off this way for some reason. There we go, it's acquired him again. In fact, both of these have. Sorry, Ivan. Old chap, I think you've met your match at last. I don't think he's going to... He's not going to evade... He might be able to evade this one, because I don't have any control over this one. In fact, look, already it's going after the noisemaker. But he won't be able to get away from a wire-guided torpedo. And right now... He has no idea where we are, I don't think. He might have a poor solution on us with his active sonar, but right now he's not in a position to be able to fire back. He's going too fast. Yeah, he spoofed this one, but number 3's locked onto him. What's interesting is he's not changing depth much. In fact, now he finally is changing depth, but we can match him.
Fire control, weapon acquired.
And yeah.
Fire control, weapon acquired.
Number 3's locked it back onto him again. He'll launch another noisemaker in just a moment, but I don't know if it's going to be too late. Now, what we can actually do here is I can go to Torpedo Cam, and we could guide it in manually via Torpedo Cam if we really wanted to. I find that this is a little bit cheeky to do, because a real weapons operator on a real submarine would not be able to do this. He probably wouldn't even have access to this level of information on the map here, but I will occasionally do this, I suppose, mostly because you guys get to watch the cool explosions. You can see, though, even at full pelt, this torpedo is struggling to connect. Come on, little torpedo. There you go.
Sierra 1, last bearing 226. Contact breaking up.
Yeah, he's had it. He's going down. Hold in the back, and looks like the other tigerfish is going to come and add insult to injury. And he was at like 300 meters or whatever. He was way below escape depth as well. So unfortunately, no, it's gone. The tigerfish is so easy to evade, man. It'll go there and be like, I give up, and then go off in a different direction. I've had it so many times where my tigerfish just gets that close and just goes, I give up, and flies off. They're such bad torpedoes. Do you see how many of them it took for us to sink one sub today? How many of them did we fire? We started this mission with like 23 of them, and now we've got 10. I think we had 22 tigerfish, didn't we? We've used 12 of them. Was it really that many? 12? God, it must have been, I suppose. Nine of them at the very least. Anyway, down he goes. So long. Not a nice way to go, must be said. And we can now leave combat. After action report. We did get our crew gained experience. We sunk him for 7,250 tons of sub. We have 10 tigerfish remaining, 5 of our Mark 8s, 2 Mosses. That's a lot more torpedoes than I wanted to have to use on him, but it is what it is. Excellent results, however, this is not your mission objective. Now, to be honest, I think that's a bug, because that hunting submarines going through here actually kind of is our objective. But I don't think this type of mission was actually in the vanilla game, so it gets a bit confused, but anyway. Pause. There's another one coming straight towards us. We've only got 10 torpedoes left, so dealing with that is going to be fun. However, I'm going to save the game. That will be next time, ladies and gentlemen. This video, prior to editing, is an hour and 34 minutes long. I don't know if I'll be able to edit it much down from that, actually. I had a lot to explain, and then we had a combat encounter that lasted way longer than I wanted it to as well. So what a way to kick things off, I suppose. Anyway, I had to go take a drink now. My throat's dry. Ladies and gents, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. And keep your eyes peeled on your feed for more as we continue this campaign for however long it lasts. That wasn't a very promising first encounter, I must admit. But we'll do our best. Yeah. Give us a sub, give us a like if you haven't already. And yeah, I'll catch you next time, everybody. Toodaloo.